Hello. Once again, I come before you as a representative of the Illuminati. You may call me the Man. Well, this week's topic comes to us from a viewer who wants to know what's the deal with Atlantis. And so, you know, Atlantis is an old idea. It's supposedly an island, almost a continent into itself, that was both a city and a country. And it disappeared in basically one day. There was a huge war. These people were supposed to be so advanced and lived close to the gods, founded by Poseidon, after all. And, you know, they valued friendship and camaraderie over gold and wealth, and that's not actually a bad idea. It sounds pretty good. But then, of course, they lost that value, and so the gods destroyed them and flooded it, and it was totally wiped off the face of the earth. And so people have been looking for it ever since. Ever since Plato wrote those things down. Now, most of them look in the Atlantic, you know, Atlantis, Atlantic, and yeah, because he mentions the Pillars of Hercules, which, of course, are the little points there where you come out of the Mediterranean into the Atlantic. Well, those are thousands of years old, and as I've said before, the Illuminati's only been around for about 300 years or so. So your guess is as good as ours. We have no idea what happened to Atlantis, if there was such a place. I'm kidding, of course. We're the Illuminati. We know everything. So, yeah. No, I have been in contact with the Anunnaki, which I mentioned back in 2012. Wow, was that 2 years ago already? We were worried about them coming back. Anyway, 2012, the Anunnaki were supposed to come back, and I mentioned then that the Anunnaki were responsible for seeding civilization throughout the world. And I spoke to one of them, actually, about Atlantis, and his name was Aquila, and he is the archaeologist on the group, and he's actually still here on the planet. The rest of the Anunnaki, of course, have left, but Aquila's still here, and he told me the whole story. He told me that there was, in fact, a place where they did try an experiment. Now, it wasn't in the Atlantic. That's the odd thing. It was actually in Africa. It was right off the coast of Africa. It was part of the same continental shelf. And, yeah, it was a little place, well, you know where Madagascar is. So it's kind of like between the African continent and Madagascar. There's that little space that's empty. Anyway, yeah, that's about where it was. And so the Anunnaki, when they first got here, oh, let's say about 6,000 years ago or whatever, they decided they were going to try a little experiment there first. And so they decided that they would set up a little civilization on this place, and not only just give them civilization, not just ideas or the rule of law or things like that. No, they would give them technology as well. And so they did, and they tried it out. And it didn't work out well. No, human beings at the time, they took to the whole corn and everything else, you know, the agricultural part of that. They took to that pretty well. And they were able to build huge cities, and one of those is the basis for Atlantis. And so, yeah, when the technology that they turned over, including very sophisticated powering systems, when the human beings got on their hands on that, unfortunately, they self-destructed, okay? They went to war amongst themselves. There were massive explosions on that particular little continent. It turns out that that little island off the continental shelf of Africa, it was not really attached very well. And so those explosions kind of, well, basically shook it loose from the continent, and it sank. And it's gone. I mean, just forget it. It's all wiped out. Let's see, that was 6,000 BC, 2,000 years since then. That, you know, 8,000 years of water flowing over top of that thing. There's hardly a trace of it left, and of course it separated Madagascar from Africa. Yeah, you don't find that in the textbook, but that's what happened. Now, as to the name, Aquila told me that it wasn't exactly Atlantis. In fact, it was ridiculous. Well, even in Greek it was ridiculous. It was called the Palahabra. Palahabra. Yeah, that's what he told me. Palahabra, which sounds funny. It really does. Palahabra. Where are you from? I'm from Palahabra. Anyway, Plato didn't like that name, so he changed it to Atlantis. He thought that was a lot better. And of course he brought in Poseidon and Zeus and a bunch of other people, and yeah, and decided to make it a cautionary tale, which in fact it already was. Now imagine the thousands of years that had passed between what actually happened until what Plato wrote down, and of course those thousands of years until we found out about it, and people have been searching for it ever since. Things just kind of get mangled in the translation, but human nature seems to hold pretty true. That's one of the reasons why the Anunnaki, when they got here in 2012, thought we'd probably blown each other up by now, and we're surprised that we were still walking upright. So yeah, that's it. And of course, it changed their plans altogether. Instead of giving the technology, which they had at the time, to the people that they were trying to create these civilizations, and you know, Mesopotamia and China and Egypt and over in Mesoamerica. They decided just to give them civilization and let them work the rest of it out. You know, here's how to plant. Go nuts. And so yeah, that's basically that's the story. So anyway, human error, of course, is the reason why we're not so advanced now. If we had had that technology, just imagine the thousands of years with that technology, what we could be right now. Can you imagine that? Human error. And that's something that we in the Illuminati are dedicated to trying to correct, trying to advance. And to that end, we have two suggestions. One, please leave a comment or a question in the comment section below. Feel free to. And two, one of the best things you could possibly do when you walk out of your house or your apartment, wherever you happen to live, is to look up in the sky and to see those chemtrails blazing up there. And then, well, just relax and breathe deeply.